sharing with you, I try to, and again, I won't share the amount of time, but there's a certain amount of time that I try to dedicate to each and every day. And I log it on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And so a part of that is I have a set time where I want to use the term formal prayer, but like private prayer.
Okay.
Because formal, I think you want to get out of the formality phase of all
Almighty
that.
God.
Almighty,
created the heavens and the
right,
earth.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but where I'm trying to be prayerful, I'm not on the move. And so I have a certain time that I have dedicated to prayer and a certain space where I can be alone, undistracted, so on and so forth. And so, so for me, it's about, I won't say it's about, but I'm realizing in order to stay connected and to stay full and to stay fresh, there's a certain amount of time I need to be connected.
Life can be fast-paced, strenuous, and flat-out overwhelming. Life transitions and taboo topics can make it hard to catch your breath. Welcome to Breathe, a podcast that enables you to slow down, get your bearings, and engage in real conversations where no topic is off limits. Breathe is presented by Breath of Life, hosted by David Person and speaker-director Pastor Debleaire Snell.
Boom!
Yes,
What up? Welcome to Breathe.
Another Monday.
Pastor Snell, Pastor Nugent, David Person. We are deep into January 2026, the new year. And speaking of new normals.
New normals.
Yeah, that's what we're pursuing right now.
That's right.
This is where we are in the Breathe series, as well as at the Oakwood University Church.
Yeah.
And Pastor Snell, you want to tell folks about that journey that the church is taking?
Yeah, so we started the year January 11, going through the 31st with our 21 days of prayer as part of our New Year's, I guess, custom at this point in time.
Part of our regular diet.
Each morning we come on for an online prayer meeting and devotion. You can check us out on our Breath of Life YouTube page Monday through Friday at 6, Saturdays and Sundays at 8 a.m. Get a little bit more time to sleep in. And we've been guided by this book. I wrote it a few years ago called New Normals. It's a 21-day guide to establishing new life patterns. You can pick that up at our website, www.breathoflife.tv, or on Amazon.com. And so it's a whole movement. And we kind of we schedule it around the new year. That's when we're kind of thinking a little bit differently, processing, wanting to refresh, and we're hoping that our Breathe family is choosing to be a part of this journey with us.
Absolutely.
So feel free to join us not only there but here, because we are at least beginning the year with going through the new normals.
New normals,
And right now we're on the new normal of prayerfulness.
Want to make that a normal.
Want to make that a normal.
It's a good place.
Yeah. Now, as I think about it, I'm thinking, well, surely as Christian people, prayer is already part of our normal.
Yeah.
Is your concern that maybe it's not, or tell us what's behind
this? So honestly, I just think that it's probably a struggle for most believers to maintain consistent connection in prayer. And and it's funny, David, I was thinking about this last night as we were thinking about this. I realized that even though prayer is critical, it is important, I just realized it is actually a watered down, poor substitute for how we're supposed to engage with God. Like, we were designed for face-to-face interaction with our Creator.
That's right.
And so, ever since, that access was lost because of our foreparent sin, this whole idea of clasping hands, closing eyes, and trying to have this communication with someone that we cannot see or, I guess, actively engage with.
Right.
Do you realize our dialogue with God, we're supposed to be like this dialogue we're having here?
Yeah.
That's what it was supposed to
We
be.
forget that.
That's what it's intended to be. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that, that's why even maintaining a consistent prayer life is going to have a certain challenge to it just because it's outside of the design. It's a default. It's a backup of some sort. And so I just think that and because we also have this sinful nature that automatically withdraws from or recoils against all things spiritual. And this doesn't, let me be clear, this doesn't matter how long you've been in the church. You could have been born at church. And your nature is still going to react violently against all spiritual initiatives. In fact, there is some data that really kind of suggests that and again, this is not just our belief system in terms of Adventism, but most Christians probably pray less than 8 or 9 minutes a week.
Really?
Yeah. No, those who are professed believers probably pray less than 8 to 9 minutes a week, and some of that revolves around you praying for your food. But
can I ask a question about that though? That's really interesting to me. Are we talking about prayer as in formal times where we're praying in sort of a formal way, where you at the beginning of your morning you kneel at your bedside and you clasp your hands, or are we talking about
I just think engagement with God.
The data that he's referring to, I'm glad he said it, but the data he's referring to the bar was very low.
Really,
it was any kind of
prayer.
Yeah,
and it's still that number.
8 or 9 minutes.
That's what
blew
my mind,
be honest
man.
with you. This was so I was in seminary. We would take this class called spiritual formation, and so we would have to partner with others, and it was a very awkward call to transparency. I wasn't really used to. So in these groups, we would have to meet, and they would just kind of ask, what is your prayer life like? Now let me be clear. This is with aspiring pastors,
right?
And I remember being in a group with a guy who was just like, he's a pastor. I mean, like great speaker, communicator. I know who he is to this day. And he's just like, yeah. And so this is like a Wednesday. He's just like, yeah, I hadn't prayed since last Thursday, so on and so forth, And, I think that, and I don't say that to cast judgment, but to kind of say, I think that there's probably some in our audience that'll probably say, I hadn't really talked to God in a couple days. And I don't think that's going to be very atypical.
No.
I don't think it's going to be, I don't know, this is just in terms of pastoring and just engaging with people, or just even my own times of spiritual drought. Like there have been some days and seasons where it's been a day or two, that I've gone without praying,
Absolutely.
So on and so forth.
Well,
so,
I can understand that if you're going through a challenge, a trial, you're kind of mad at God. You're not really on speaking terms. I get that, but I'm saying if you're, just as a part of your regular routine, if you're saying to me 8 or 9 minutes a day, and me and God are on speaking terms, and we're good, like really?
But I just think most of Christendom, again, I'm talking about any denomination or just really, I think most of Christendom, their spiritual, most of their spiritual life revolves around church or some type of corporate gathering, both for study or engagement with the word or prayer. I think that's the rhythm most of Christendom is in, which is why, I just think that it's kind of why we're in the condition that we're in. And I think some of the things or negatives that are so consistent in church, I think it reveals that reality in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And you did say 8 or 9 minutes a week.
A week,
not day. Not day. Yeah. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Every time I see that data, and it gets worse over the years. It gets less.
Yeah.
But I do think, some of it is how we define what prayer is. But in terms of prayerfulness, what does that look like? How do we, what does that good rhythm look like? But I mean, honestly, there are times, there are seasons, I would say, where there is a constant refrain of being mindful that God is near. I'm just speaking of myself now, but there are seasons where there's this constant refrain where I'm thinking, okay, it's not so much that it's two-way, but I'm just there's an awareness of God's nearness and His presence, and I don't think outside of those seasons He's not there. It's just that in those seasons I'm just more aware of it, and I'm plugging into it, and I'm taking advantage of it. Okay, God, really need to work on this. I need to get this done. There's this mindful. Am I sitting and I'm pausing and I'm, doing the formal prayer thing? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Even though I am doing that on a regular basis, it's just that there are these seasons where you're just having much more consistent and real-time almost communication with God.
So what does it look like? I mean, what is prayerfulness really on a day-to-day basis? What does it look like? Should it look like?
Yeah. So if I can throw this out there for consideration, because I think that there's one thing that harms prayerfulness being a normal. And I pray that this makes sense, because we are told to ask God for what we need. We have not because we ask not, so on and so forth. But I think what a truly prayerful life looks like, it is relational in nature, not transactional in nature.
Yeah, that's good.
So that I just think that you're going to struggle to be prayerful if it is outcome driven or dependent. So that if, I'm measuring the strength of my prayer life, and I think we all do it to a certain extent, when you measure the strength of your prayer life by what you're receiving, I just think that if that's the incentive and the motivator, you're going to always be kind of up and down, hill and valley, or you're going to have long seasons of prayer collapse in your journey. But like the purpose of prayer is not to receive. The purpose of prayer is to connect. It is not what I get, it is who I get. And so I just think that, because what happens is, the whole goal is to strengthen a relationship. This is not me trying to get brownie points with God.
Right.
It is not me trying to get merit. It is the recognition, man, that I have a deficit that only God can fill.
Yeah.
And that deficit is filled through connection with Him.
Yeah.
And so I just think that, when we talk about a prayerful life, I think it needs to begin with the purpose and the incentive. Because I just think, I don't know you'll ever be prayerful. So there are just seasons where the blessings of God they just falling, man. It's just
mercy.
It's just coming, where I'm just in a season of abundance. But guess what, man? There are seasons where you're in a waiting season. Yep. There are seasons where, man, where it just may be. When I say the blessings of God, they're always flowing. But the things I'm requesting, they may be coming a little bit more slow. It may be a little bit more spread out, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure.
But I just think that, man, if the goal of prayer is God, man, I can get that every day.
That's good.
And I can have that connection every day. And I can be replenished every day. And I can be strengthened every day. And so I just think that, man, a truly prayerful life is driven by a need and a desire to be in connection and relationship with the Most High.
So I'd like for each of you, and I'll share too, to just share, how do you pray throughout the course of a day? What does prayer actually look like for you or sound like for you?
So for me, let me be clear. So because of these realities I was sharing with you, I try to, and again, I won't share the amount of time, but there's a certain amount of time that I try to dedicate to each and every day. And I log it on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And so a part of that is I have a set time where I want to use the term formal prayer, but private prayer.
Okay.
Because formal, I think you want to get out of the formality phase of all that.
Almighty God.
Almighty,
created the heavens and
right, right. But where I'm trying to be prayerful, I'm not on the move. And so I have a certain time that I have dedicated to prayer, and a certain space where I can be alone, undistracted, so on and so forth. And so, so for me, it's about, I won't say it's about, but I'm realizing in order to stay connected and to stay full and to stay fresh, there's a certain amount of time I need to be connected. And I've seen in real time when I don't do that, I sense an emptiness, a void, and a spiritual power and sensitivity that is lacking when I do not. So I think one, it's dedicating myself to a certain amount of time, a specific time, and a specific place. The other thing is, I have a kind of a format that I follow. And so what I mean when I say that, like, I begin with gratitude, giving thanks. I follow from there with confession. And every day there's something to confess. From there, it is intercession, praying for others. From there, it is making my personal requests and desires known unto him. And then I conclude with just kind of, I guess it's not a part of my prayer life, but it's meditation. It's stillness.
Yeah.
It is like just making room to sit with God to hear what he is going to say to the things that I put before him and to get instruction for said day. Now, again, does it always follow that exact order? And no, depending on the heart's burden, I may go right into requests first, or I may go right into Thanksgiving, depending on how grateful I am, or depending on what kind of conviction the Spirit has brought to me. Sure. I may have to go right into confession, so on and so forth. But I'm saying that's kind of the range or flow chart that I have in my head as I talk to God each day.
Are you writing things down while you're doing this?
So every day it's a little different. Well, I won't say every day it's a little different, but it's a combination of written prayers, combination of, all right, I may be sitting still. Yeah. And then sometimes, man, like, I'm just walking around the block and I'm just talking and I'm pouring my soul out to God, in various ways.
So your eyes may be open.
Yeah, so my eyes may be open. Yeah. So but my concentration is heaven. You're locked in, even though I'm on the move. So, it takes various forms and on a given day. But I do try to make sure that I do have that quiet time to start the day. That's kind of my, I guess we were talking about discipline last week. That's, the thing that I try to make room for and try to guard it as well.
Before we go to Kirk, I want to ask you one other thing.
Yeah.
Do you, we were taught many of us were taught growing up that the first thing you do after you open your eyes in the morning is you start praying before you do anything else. Yeah. Is that part of your thought process?
I do probably. I will probably go wash my face. Because it's part of my waking up activity as well. And I'll be honest with you, I do that imperfectly. There's some times where you may kind of open up and wind up replying to a text or two, or seeing who won the game. So I'm not gonna lie to the people. You know what I'm saying? That, like if I went to sleep watching the Lakers, I may wake up. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just telling you that's
real in
the humanity of it all. But what I do try to do is not get too far into the day. 10, 15 minutes into the day without kind of going into that quiet space to be still with God. Because like one of the things I realize is the further you get into the day before you pray, I think the likelihood of really dialing in and being still, it decreases with the further you get into the day without and allowing the day's responsibilities to collapse on you. Now you're just reacting or doing what it is you got to do. So my goal is, in some ways, I got to beat these kids up. You know what I'm saying? I do want to beat Gianna up. You know what I'm saying? Not that she's a distraction, but there's a time where we're gonna pray. So I'm trying to kind of before meetings commence and all that stuff. But the goal is I need to start the day connected, and I want to begin the day full.
No, I totally agree. I think I'm told I'm a morning person, so I got to get it in the morning. I don't know how people do it in the middle of the day or evening. I have no idea how that works because I've found even if I've tried to have a substantive worship time in the afternoon or prayerful time, my mind is just on other things. So I have to do it in the morning, and I have his themes. Some of them are some days I'm just doing acknowledgement. I just acknowledge God for who He is, and that's my thing for that particular day. But I think just like you, I mean, I'm not hard and fast with any of this, and depending on what's going on, if we've got family members, I have dad and his siblings are getting up there in age, and if some of those things are pressing, I'm going to go into intercession. It's kind of like that, but I do like to really every prayer time I have always has acknowledgement and thanks. And sometimes I don't get past that. So I kind of let that be a thing. But there are themes. I have days where I'm just praying for the family, praying for the kids. I just want to lift them up. And I do have those written down. But there are different other things you have on the prayer list as well. I have been making an attempt to have quiet time, the stillness, and just listening to God and trying to hear. And I want to echo something Pastor Snell said. Man, there's it has become more and more apparent and aware that on the days that I've not been able to get into that space of how disconnected I can get. And you feel it. You almost want to just pause the day and start over. So I do think that it becomes its own benefit. Like the prayer time, the time with God is its own benefit. I haven't necessarily received a tangible, okay, God, thank you for the car. No. But it's the time itself becomes its own benefit as you get into the rhythm of it. And I do know that it took time. It took time for me. It's something that I saw modeled. My dad did this growing up. There was times where I would wake up in the morning and he would be over my bed praying. And me and my siblings talk about that.
Nice.
And so it's something that I've instituted as well. And I hear my kids say, "Dad, I think Daddy came in this morning." That kind of thing. I love that. I love that. And so it's something that I saw modeled, and I know that I'm fortunate where that's concerned. So it's something that I've grabbed from him, and I've taken into my own spiritual diet and life as well. But yeah, that's kind of the way that it goes. But I do try to, because I'm a very thoughtful person. Generally speaking, I actually drive with the radio off.
Okay.
I get in my thoughts, and I'm actually able to. We spent Christmas in Florida. As we were driving back, I usually take the early shift. It's about a 10-hour drive. So we get in the car about 5 o'clock in the morning, and for that, from about 5 to 10, the kids, they're gone. They're asleep. I'm not turning on the radio. Okay. I'm not listening to anything. I'm in.
You're praying.
And I don't know that. I guess it is prayer.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It's
More
not like a formal okay, God, no, but I'm practicing stillness. I'm trying to be quiet and just hear. And I do think that is a very much a regular part of my day. Whenever I have moments where I can be on my own, whether it's that carved out time in the morning, or if I'm driving somewhere, or if I have a few moments in the office by myself or in the studio, I do try to pause and just reflect. Reflection is big for me. I think as a society we don't reflect enough.
We don't.
Thinking through what has transpired thus far, and how do I feel about that? But I try to reflect, but also what am I hearing? What am I hearing? So that's kind of my diet.
And even when we talk about the prayerfulness, so I think we described the start of our day.
Yeah.
But I just think prayerfulness is there's a dialogue that continues throughout the course of the day, where sometimes it's as simple as, Lord, give me wisdom for this meeting I'm about to have. Or I'm in this tense,
and that's real time.
Real time.
So that's not in the morning where you're praying for the meeting. No, as the meeting is getting ready to happen. Yes, yeah.
Or when I'm in this tense engagement, and I'm Lord, help me to hold my peace. Help me to know how to reply. Help me to be still.
It's real.
Or it's funny because we don't really talk about this, but there are times where I don't think we realize it, because you actually see it throughout the scripture. Lamentation is a spiritual discipline as well.
It is a discipline.
So there are times where it's like, man, Lord, what's happening?
Yeah.
I mean, so there
that's
is
good. Those seasons.
That's a part of it as well.
Sure.
So when we talk about this ongoing dialogue, there's just the emptying of your soul, before God, whether it's in joy, whether it's with frustration, whether it is sadness, there's a connectivity, that I think is interlaced throughout the entirety of the day. So there's not this, but it's, soul connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. You just said soul connection. I love that. And I also like the idea, and I know this is what it is for me, it's an ongoing dialogue.
Yeah.
It starts in the morning, and it's more structured in the morning for me.
Yeah.
But as time goes on throughout the day, I'm saying things. I'm listening. I'm saying things. I'm lamenting.
Yeah.
I'm praising.
Yep.
Yeah, all of that.
All of it.
Seeking instruction, guidance, wisdom.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
But if I could just reinforce, because there are going to be days where the things you pray for, man, they just flow and it's abundant. But there are waiting seasons, and then they're gonna. And you know what? There are no seasons where you're saying, Lord, I want, and God is saying, no. He's so funny. First John 5 says, man, whatever we ask in His name, according to his will, we know he heareth us. So like in our mind, like,
he heard.
If he heard me, surely he's going to give. But no, but the Bible says according to his will. And so part of that trust is trusting, okay, if this is not his will, it's not what's best for me.
Wow.
And so I'm not measuring the strength of my prayer life by what I'm getting. I'm measuring the strength of my prayer life through how I'm connected. It's so funny how, like, man, in your on your device, you have that little thing that lets you know how strong your connection is to the Wi-Fi, how many bars you have. Like, man, you know how strong your connection is by you got 4 or 5 bars, or whether you're down to 1. And so I want to encourage you to stop looking at your bank account, stop looking at your position at your work, the size of your house, and just make sure you're checking the bars and making sure that there's enough connectivity, because that's really the evidence. That's the proof.
I love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Good place to end. Prayerfulness.
Prayerfulness.
Very essential. We've talked about discipline and positivity. Those are important things, but prayerfulness, maintaining a connection to God through prayer, is definitely something that should be, hopefully, prayerfully for you, one of your new normals.
I love it.
All right. God bless you as you continue to join us as we take this journey on the new normals here on Breathe. And don't forget, and we say this at the end of every show, stop, pray, and breathe.
Breathe is produced by David Person for Breath of Life. Executive producer is Debleaire Snell, and sound engineer is Kirk Nugent. Audio episodes of Breathe can be found on Apple, Spotify, or Google podcast platforms. For video episodes and extra content, check out the Breath of Life YouTube channel. Breath of Life is faith-based content, resources, and programs from a contemporary urban perspective for those looking for hope and guidance. We believe that every breath we take is a testimony that God is consistent, that He loves us, and has a plan for our lives.